So for the last while, I have been secretly acquiring books. I've been buying books, I've gotten a few books as gifts, and I haven't talked about it on my channel until now. I've been holding off way too long in this book haul, and while I don't do a lot of book hauls on my channel, I think that this one will have a lot of books that you'll be very interested in. It's a lot of books I haven't talked about in other cases, and so they haven't been reviewed, and I'm really excited to share with you all what I've been hiding, what I've been hoarding, and if all that sounds good, let's get started. All right, first, let's start with some bookish gifts. The first one is one I received for my birthday from one of my great online bookish friends, and that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This is one of my favorite dark backlist books that I read this year. Of course, it's dark academia about a group of students, and right at the beginning of the story, you know that someone killed Bunny, and it's specifically finding out not who killed them, but why. And so it's just this dark, delicious literary treat. I love this book, and these are the kind of books that I love to own. Maybe not everyone understands the desire to buy books you've already read, but for me, this book didn't have great audio. I sampled it and said, no, I'm definitely going to do a physical copy, and it took so many months to get a copy from my library, and so it's the kind of book that I want to own so that I can reread it whenever I want, because I am the kind of person who loves to reread my favorites. So thank you so much to my dear friend for this. This is very appreciated and will be very well loved. Next, I want to mention a few other books that weren't sent for my birthday, but actually before then for various reasons. The first one is Pushing Ice by Alistair Reynolds. This is one of the books that I have read and reviewed on my channel. It was one that I mentioned, I believe, in my spring TBR, one that I wanted to read, and I mentioned that I keep getting it from the library and then having to return it, and the poor librarians are probably tired of shipping this book around my province. And so a very kind subscriber who loves Alistair Reynolds offered to send me a copy. And I did read and review this one. I liked it, but I am sad that I didn't love it as much as they did, which always makes me feel a bit guilty when someone takes the time and money to send me a book and it's not a 5-star read. It's a story of a group that go and investigate this thing in outer space. They're the closest ship, and so they are required by law to go and try to find out what's happening. And the story is just vast in nature, as always with Alistair Reynolds. I definitely think it demonstrates his world building, his creativity, the big ideas that he does. And I'm definitely glad I got a chance to check it out. And I do say that my librarians probably thank you for this as well, because again, they're really tired of sending me that book back and forth between the library systems when I finally got a chance to read it and check it off my TBR. So thank you again. Next up is The Wandering Earth by Sisson Liu. And this, of course, is a collection of short stories. I reviewed this book on my channel before receiving this copy. This is a story collection that, of course, the main story, the title story, was turned into a Netflix adaptation, which I still haven't seen, and I don't know if I'm going to or not, because I tend to, when I really love a story or a book, I tend to not want to see the adaptation because I'm worried that it will ruin or taint the experience. But I love this whole collection. I often say that I'm not a big short story reader, but his stories are just so good that I can't help it. So this is one where I love the collection. I immediately went to put on my Amazon wish list, and a kind subscriber sent it to me just because it wasn't my birthday or anything at the time. And I'm so grateful for that, because this author is quickly becoming an all-time favorite, and this is definitely a short story collection I can see myself reading again and again. Honestly, even as I talk about it now, I'm dying to just turn off the camera and start reading, but y'all probably wouldn't appreciate a short little book haul like this, so I better keep going. But again, I will be reading this one again very, very soon, and many times over after that. Next is a manga, and that is PSTD Volume 1. This is a horror manga that I was sent by one of my good friends online as a celebration for getting a new job. I don't think I've mentioned on my channel, but I have switched jobs back in the early spring. It was a whole to-do and has been a really great transition. And so as a celebration of that new job, something I was really looking forward to moving into, my friend sent me this gift because I believe in his words, what is a better way to celebrate than with books? And I completely agree with that. This is a weird horror story manga that very much reminds me of the work of Junji Ito. I want to do a whole video talking about horror stories by other manga artists that aren't Junji Ito, so this book will definitely be included in there. Highly recommend it if you love weird books with really unique, messed up pictures. This is what you're gonna get, and this book is lovely. Highly recommend. Next, another dear friend of mine sent 2 books to me in the mail. The first one is Blood Over Bright Heaven by Emma Wang. This is the same author who wrote The Sword of Kaigen, and I've been hearing really great things about this one. It's a standalone fantasy that is supposed to involve dark academia. It certainly sounds up my my alley. And I really appreciate this as a gift because as an indie title, it's often a lot harder for me to get. I either have to go and get a month of Audible and buy it with a credit. And I don't think it's on KU or Kindle Unlimited, so it's a book that was not the easiest for me to track down myself. And so it's a lot easier if someone sends me a gift. It allows me to take a chance on a book without necessarily feeling the risk to my very tight book buying budget, which we'll talk about in a later part of this video, but very excited for this one. I think it has high possibility of being a favorite based off how much they love this book. And the other book they sent me is The Moon is a Harsh Mistress by Robert Heinlein. And this is a book I have not read yet. I honestly was kind of waiting for this book haul to jump into it. It is a beloved sci-fi classic, one that my friend loves. And of course, I hope to love it too. Now, I read another book by this author, Starship Troopers. I liked it, but I didn't love it solely based off the fact that military science fiction doesn't tend to be my favorite subgenre. So I have high hopes that this one will be a better favorite of mine and hopefully a better place for me to go with this author's work. Hopefully I love it as much as she did. And I just want to briefly talk about the audiobooks that were sent to me as gifts over the last several months. One of them is The Traitor's Blade. This was sent to me by a subscriber, Steven. I believe they were the one that commented asking if I'd read it before, in which I said no. I've heard that this is like a Three Musketeers fun, rompy fantasy adventure, and it sounds great, so I'm really excited, and apparently the audiobook is the way to go. I also need to read The Blood of Assassins by R.J. Barker. This is a sequel to a book that was previously sent to me by the same subscriber, and while the book was not a flying 5 stars for me, I very much liked it and can see the appeal of this author, and so they kindly sent me another copy after that review of the next book, and I've been waiting way too long to read it, so this video is reminding me that I need to get on that. So I promise you I won't keep you waiting. I will get on that very shortly and come back with my review, letting you know what I think. So thank you again. It's very kind to send me audiobooks. I know it costs everyone money when they do that, and it is for me a great way to experience books, especially during the summer when I don't have as much physical reading time. Well, I still have a lot of physical reading time, but rather is that we spend a lot of time outside around the park, which means I have plenty of audiobook time. So it's a good excuse to get even more books in. And I also had a few more audiobooks sent to me through the last Audible sale from the same person. They sent me a copy of 2 sci-fi thrillers. One is called Freedom and one is called Demon. I believe it's a sci-fi thriller duology. I don't know much about it. They also sent me a book called The Flickermen, which is about this scientist who discovers something that apparently throws everything into chaos. I don't know much about it other than the fact that they love this book, which is all I need to know. And I think the last audiobook they sent me is one that a lot of you are going to be excited for, and that is Dungeon Crawler Carl, which is really hard to say quite quickly. And this, of course, is an iconic, beloved indie book, the start of a long-running series, and one I'm really dying to check out myself. I've heard the audiobook edition is amazing and the way to go, so I will definitely be checking this one out very soon. Again, this video is reminding me that I've got to get through my audiobook unread books because of the fact that they're invisible. I sometimes forget that they're there, but as soon as I remember, I'm very, very excited and I will get to them all very soon. So just want to say a quick thank you again to everyone who has sent me something. It's very much appreciated, and I really do value you taking the time to send something my way, and I do want to again thank you however I can for your time and thoughtfulness. Now, in terms of review copies, I really struggle to include them in these book hauls because of the fact, as I mentioned in a previous video, that I tend to read the books as soon as I receive them from publishers, as long as it's close to the publication date. And so I don't want to be repetitive in videos when I've already talked about something at length. One review copy that I do want to mention here, though, is the new copy of The Witcher. So these are the new editions that are coming out by Orbit. It's a book that I've received in the mail, and other than putting out a post on Instagram, I haven't included it in my content simply because I have read the Witcher series before. And so I'm looking for a new way to incorporate it into some content without being repetitive. One thing I'm thinking about doing, which might be interesting, is because of the success and then failure of the Netflix TV show, I think it would be interesting perhaps to reread this whole series and do a series review asking the question, is The Witcher still worth reading after the hype has died down around the Netflix show? And I think that there was a lot of love for this series back in the day, and then there's been a lot of mixed reviews that have come out more recently of not just the show, but also the books. And so I kind of want to give myself a chance to give a reread to the series and give a voice to that. But let me know if you're interested, because I do realize that more of my audience is here for the science fiction rather than the fantasy. But I kind of want an excuse to highlight this series again if people would be interested in watching, which is the big if. Now, I also want to briefly mention 3 puzzle books that I've received for review. I got volume 1, 2, and 3 of Myrtle. And Myrtle, not to be confused with Wordle, these are sleuth deduction puzzles where you have a set of clues. So it will say one person has the ski gloves and they're the person with the blue eyes, and this person didn't buy the pass, and this person was next to this person, etc. Now, I used to do these kind of puzzles all the time as a kid. I remember doing them on road trips, or loving getting these kind of books as activity books. I've actually filmed a clip that is supposed to go into a summer reading vlog that is not coming to fruition. It's not seeing the light of day at the rate that I'm going with my reading right now. So I would really like to highlight these books more in a future video, but I need to finish the vlog first. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to do a Halloween or spooky season reading vlog talking about the vintage horror I'll be reading this fall. If that sounds interesting to you, if you would watch that, let me know, because I seriously need some motivation to finish that vlog, because again, I talk about Myrtle more in that vlog, but I need to finish it because the part that's missing in that vlog is the reading updates, because I keep reading and DNFing books, and it's just making it a bad vlog. So let me know if I should push through and get the vlog done in the fall, because my summer reading vlog is not really happening at this point. All right, last let's talk about books that I bought myself. Now the first one I got is a copy of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. Of course, everyone knows this story, a page-turning mystery thriller. I got this book for $1 at a garage sale. I love garage sales. I love hunting for books at really good deals, and so even though I've read this one before, it's one I figure I'll read again, and it just was so cheap. Sometimes it's just fun to pick up a book for a really good price. Also, using some book credit, I picked up a copy of The Quantum Thief as well as its sequel, The Fractal Prince. These are the first two books in a trilogy that I've read before and really liked. I would love to go back and do a series review. These are mind-bending books that are out of the box and smart and clever, and again, I desperately need to reread them and attempt to put together some thoughts and put out a video, because I don't see enough people talking about these in the sci-fi space. I know they're not completely underhyped, but I want to give them more love. The only book I still need to collect is the last book, The Casual Prince, or Casual Angel, I believe. And so hopefully I can track that one down. It gets pretty expensive online when I look to go buy it. So I'm just kind of looking for a good deal, or hopefully finding it at a used book sale eventually. Also, I treated myself to 3 books using store credit at a used bookstore. So I got Quicksilver by Neil Stephenson, and then I got, oh, which one's book 2? I don't even remember. Book 2 is The Confusion, and then the third and final book is The Systems of Worlds. I had store credit there, so I didn't actually have to spend any money out of pocket for these 3 books. I had already read them at the time that I bought them, but they were books I read through my library, and again, they're really hefty books to be asking the librarians to constantly get back through my library system every time I want to reread them. It usually takes 2 or 3 weeks to get to my library when I do request these books to come in, because I live in a smaller town. And so it just made sense to me. They're big chunky books. I don't want to be racing through them when I want to reread them, worrying about return dates or holds on my library system. And so this just seemed like a great purchase, because I really love Neil Stephenson and I want his books to be readily available whenever the mood strikes. And the last 2 books I want to talk about are ones that I got at a used book sale. The first one is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I think, again, this book requires no explanation, an iconic dystopian book. It's one I've wanted to buy for quite a while, but I didn't want to buy it full price new, because as a Canadian, I always assumed that it would just show up at used book sales around here, and sure enough, with enough patience, it did take me several years to find this. I got a cheap copy for $2, and I think that the edition is fine. There's definitely cooler ones out there, especially with the television show. There was a lot of reprints and really fancy editions, but again, it's a classic I need on my shelves. It's a book that I reread frequently. It's depressing as all, but I think it's worth reading, and I'm really happy to finally have a copy. And the last book I bought at the same used book sale is the complete version of Narnia. This is one that I want to read at some point, but I don't quite know when that's going to happen. I have this idea in my head of reading through this series with my child. I don't really think that day is necessarily going to come, and for myself, I've only ever read the iconic classic The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, so I actually don't know if I'm gonna like the rest of the series, but it was so cheap. It was either $1 or $2, and I figured I can probably sell it for just as much as I bought it for if I do want to pass it along eventually. But it was just something to pick up. I kind of wanted to spend some money because it was cheap, and I'm really hoping I'm gonna like it. I'd love to know your thoughts. Does the series hold up as an adult if you never read it in its entirety as a child? I'd love to know. So that's it for this video here. I'd love to know the books I talked about. Which ones are you planning on checking out for yourself? And of the books I haven't haven't read yet, let me know if there's one you want me to prioritize. Finally, I'd love to have feedback, what you would like to see for a reading vlog for me. I don't want to do this all the time, I don't want to do this often, but I have some footage already done, and so I'd really like to round it out. So I'm thinking either I can do a video where I read through all of the unread books in my house, because I only have probably 5 to 10 of them, or I could do a video where I take you through my spooky season reading. I have a TBR video coming very soon telling you what I'm going to read in September and October, and maybe you'd enjoy walking me through and going with me through that spooky season adventure. So let me know down below. If you're new to my channel, please stick around and subscribe. I do read a lot of horror, thriller, science fiction, fantasy, and other dark things. You can help me out with a comment, even if just an emoji. You can hit that little notification bell, and you can give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.